cracked me up a couple years ago when he was talking about just clapping somebody out if they go too long. And I thought, that was funny, by the way. You know, what are you going to do if you're the speaker and they start clapping and they just clap and you can't talk and you can't get mad at them? So, so that was good. I wasn't going to share a dad joke, but this morning one hit me and I thought of Marcus. And I thought, when is the next opportunity that I can make a preacher joke while I'm standing in for a preacher? So there was this guy. He was in his church service, and the preacher just kept preaching. Well, this guy gets up, and he leaves for a while, and after a while, he came back, sat back down. So after the service is over, the preacher was at the back shaking hands, and this guy walks in, and he said, walks past him, he shakes his hand, he says, "I noticed you left for a while. What was that all about?" He said, "Well, I went to get a haircut." He said, "Oh, why didn't you get that before the service?" He said, "I didn't need it." May have happened for Marcus sometime. I'm not sure. They didn't say who the preacher was. So anyway, all right. So if you want to turn to Romans 12, I'm going to read from 3 to verse 19. A couple years ago, I was at an Impact seminar in Goshen, and it was about how you should do your message and speech and that kind of thing. And Rick Good, which is one of the leaders of that seminar, said that your message should be prepared ahead of time, just like pizza. You order pizza in. Guy shows up at your door, he delivers the pizza. And so that's what I'm doing today. I'm just delivering the pizza. Now, there is that thing, you may have something on the pizza you don't like. If you find something you don't like, you can pick it off. It's okay. You don't have to take everything, and don't be offended by anything that I've got to say. And first of all, it applies to me, and so anything I say, if it's something you don't really appreciate, just know that I received it first. It goes to me too. All right, so starting in verse 3 of Romans 12. "For by the grace given to me, I say to every one of you, do not think of yourself more highly than you ought, but rather think of yourself with sober judgment in accordance with the faith God has distributed to each of you. For just as each of us has one body with many members, and these members do not all have the same function, so in Christ we, though many, form one body, and each member belongs to all the others. We have different gifts according to the grace given to each of us. If your gift is prophesying, then prophesy in accordance with your faith. If it is serving, then serve. If it is teaching, then teach. If it is to encourage, then give encouragement. If it is giving, then give generously. If it is to lead, do it diligently. If it is to show mercy, do it cheerfully. Love must be sincere. Hate what is evil, cling to what is good. Be devoted to one another in love. Honor one another above yourselves. Never be lacking in zeal, but keep your spiritual fervor, serving the Lord. Be joyful in hope, patient in affliction, faithful in prayer. Share with the Lord's people who are in need. Practice hospitality. Bless those who persecute you. Bless and do not curse. Rejoice with those who rejoice. Mourn with those who mourn. Live in harmony with one another. Do not be proud, but be willing to associate with people of low position. Do not be conceited. Do not repay anyone evil for evil. Be careful to do what is right in the eyes of everyone. If it is possible, as far as it depends on you, live at peace with everyone. Do not take revenge, my dear friends, but leave room for God's wrath, for it is written, "It is mine to avenge, I will repay, says the Lord." And by the way, I want to say thank you to, there's a whole handful of you that said you were praying for me for this message, and I appreciate that. So what I'm planning on doing is making a few comments on this, but the thought of our body having different members and the church being the same as our body. And I've seen situations where very similar talented people couldn't get along with each other. They had very similar talents. And if you think about a lot of things you could do with your right hand or you could do with your left hand, they're similar in ability, but your hands typically don't fight with each other. I've had situations where I had to switch hands a lot, trying to, fasten a bolt or putting a nut on a bolt or something. But typically they work together very well. Your body doesn't normally argue with itself. What I am going to be focusing on is a very practical part of working together, and that has to do with the personalities. A couple years ago, I was introduced to the DISC model of human behavior, which is basically about your personalities. And all of you are somewhere in a broad segment of 4 segments of personality. Everyone is their own unique blend, but it was very eye-opening to me when I started understanding that human behavior is predictable. You may not believe that, but maybe by the time we're done, maybe you will. If I understand your personality, then I understand your strengths and your weaknesses. The DISC model of human behavior paints with a fairly broad brush, so they have to, in other words, we show extremes, and you may not be extreme, but you're somewhere in that segment if you can figure out. So we're going to be running out of time, I can tell already. So we're going to have to switch over fairly quick. I'm sure I'm going to miss some things I was going to say, and I already knew last night that I was going to have to slash what I was going to say. But we have different gifts, and each member belongs to another. Basically, what I read here with Romans 12 is whatever you're gifted with, be the best of that you can be. And that's the same with the personalities. Be the best Matt you can be. Be the best Phil you can be. Oh, wait, he already is. I'm just kidding. I'm just saying we could be the best of whoever God made you. And the lesson title that I had is Becoming Aware. And my thought behind that is, if you think of a baby's not very aware. All of it. Do any of you remember when you were born? Anybody? One goofball in the back. I don't think any of us really do. What do you remember discovering your hands or your feet? Probably not. I doubt if you even remember when you started crawling. But you became aware. It was a process of becoming aware. What about when you started running? Do you remember that? When you discovered your own shadow? I kind of think I faintly remember kind of thinking about the fact that, hey, that shadow's there. It's all a journey of becoming aware. And I have become aware that I think this is a lifelong thing. I think what God's trying to tell us, we aren't done becoming aware after we grow up and we're a full-grown adult. I think it continues right into old age. But it's not just about yourself. Becoming aware of those people around you, their needs, their personalities, and so the question is the study of personalities. Why is that of use to us? Well, it's of use because we can understand other people better and possibly not get offended, probably not offend people as quickly. So I think I'm going to shift right into that. I'm not very experienced with this slideshow business, but let's see what happens here. And if I'm doing something wrong, Martha, you're going to have to tell me. So I'm going to jump down. On your, this slideshow is actually for a workbook, as in a seminar, if you will. And take your, if you've got a pen, take your bulletin out, and on the back is a blank page. And I apologize, we're going to have to keep going through this fairly quickly. What I want you to do is draw a circle and draw a line, just as you see on the PowerPoint. Draw a line upright and also crossways. And then put those words there as well. Outgoing at the top, reserved at the bottom. And then people on your right, and task on your left. So if you have done that, somewhere on this chart is going to be you, and I hesitate to challenge you with this, but if there's somebody you have a difficulty with in your life, put an X where you think that person would be, and put a dot where you feel like you are, and then it may explain some things as we go through this. Let me pop back now. So, question for yourself: are you more outgoing or are you more reserved? That will tell you if you're in the top part of the graph or in the bottom. And if you don't know, ask somebody next to you that knows you, and they'll be able to tell you whether you're more outgoing or more reserved. And now the second question is, do you tend to be more people-oriented, or do you tend to be more task-oriented? And it's the same thing. Ask somebody next to you that knows you very well, which do they think you are? And you don't have to be much one way or the other, but that will put you into a different segment. And it will definitely explain itself as we go through this. So task-oriented people tend to focus more on the job to be done or the goal to be accomplished. They seem to be less influenced by the opinions of others. They are more logic-based in their approach. People-oriented individuals tend to enjoy the company of others and seem to focus on people as being the priority rather than the project at hand. They seem to be more influenced by the opinions of others and less fact-based. So I want to see a raise of hands. Who are the outgoing people? Raise a hand. I like it. They're very outgoing. There you go. Okay, where's my reserved people? This is a very reserved. That was a little emphatic, Mrs. Yoder. That was for the reserved person. That was a little emphatic. So we've got that figured out. So, who puts themselves in the D category? Raise your hands. Okay, good. According to the statistics, only 10% of people are in the D category. And my mentor, Dave Kaufman, says it's because God is merciful. Because they tend to be dominant, direct, demanding, decisive, determined, doers. How many eyes do we have? Any show of hands on the eyes? Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And by the way, this is a benefit for you as a parent to learn early for your children, because not all children should be treated the same way. I'm sorry, life isn't fair, but that's the way it is. So your personalities are inspiring, influencing, impressionable, interactive, impressive, interested in people. And as you see, that's in the segment that is outgoing and also people-oriented. Where's my S people? I know there's a bunch of you. You've got to be. Mena, you better get your hand up. I'm pretty sure you are one. All right. So the S are supportive, stable, steady, sweet, status quo, and shy. Now, who is a C? Let's see a raise of hands here. You guys are pretty sure you know you are, right? There's no doubt. Don't argue with these people. They know. They're smart people. And they are cautious, calculating, competent, conscientious, contemplative, and careful. So I'm going to kind of flash through here. This is for you D people. And by the way, I do have too many slides, so we are going to keep it moving. It's already 11:24. This is coming down to the wire, Leon. And in the red is what could be a weakness. There's going to be some more of this as we go through here, so I'm going to keep going. Donald Trump would be a good example. I wrote down a couple things in Bible characters. See, this is what's interesting about this. You literally can read a Bible story and you can come to a conclusion of what type of personality that figure in the Bible had. How about the Apostle Paul? Do you think he might have been a D? A D personality? He was fervent for God and he didn't care. It was a life or death thing. Then he switched completely. So I believe that the Apostle Paul would be a D. Some strengths: strong-willed, determined, independent, optimistic, practical, productive. I hope I don't make you guys dizzy with this. I am trying to cram a lot into a short amount of time. But there's also weaknesses here. There's more on this. Under control, you can be, with a D, you can be courageous, but you can also be reckless, rude, impatient. You see yourself? And I'm not trying to focus on the bad side of things, but we need to be aware that is how we may come across to others. D types like activity, bigness. Seems like I heard Donald Trump say something like bigly, I think is what it was. They like to debate. They aren't scared of competition at all. And just on a personal level, they don't mind eye contact. They're not intimidated by that. Other personalities are intimidated by steady eye contact. Something to be aware of. I think the biggest thing that I see with the D types that could be a problem is they don't consider other people's feelings. I was at this one seminar, and one Amish guy was sitting there, and we were having a little group discussion with the Ds, and he said, well, first couple years, he didn't know his wife had feelings. I about fell off my chair laughing, but anyway, he was being honest. So you get the idea. The D's are pretty much to the point. They want action, and if they were building a bridge, they would build the quickest bridge built. It wouldn't necessarily be the most beautiful, but it would work, and it would be fast. I'm going to skip through that. Some of that just tells you some of the where did we go? Just some of the visual things that happen. And by the way, just for what it's worth, I've got some material out back. I believe is it on a table? that you can browse through. If this is just going to be a taste of this, and I hope you don't leave here feeling unfulfilled, but there's a lot more to it. And by the way, if you have any questions, this is open. You can shout out a question or something if you want. We're into the I type, and this is their language. They can be very illogical. Want to guess what mine might be? So these tend to be about 25 to 30%. We're going to keep going here. Somebody mentioned that I should have a low battery on my mic here. I won't say his name, but his initials are Andrew Pay. It's still working, sorry. So the I strength, friendly, compassionate, carefree, talkative, outgoing, enthusiastic, warm, personable, and fun. But they can also be weak-willed, unstable, undisciplined, restless, loud, undependable, egocentric, exaggerative, and frivolous. By the way, I'm talking to myself because that happens to be me. As an I personality, I don't typically meet strangers, or they're not that way for long. If I want to talk to somebody, very quickly, we're friends. As far as I know, anyway. They can be optimistic, persuasive. If you want me to go faster or slower, you can say something. I'm just watching the clock a little. So there's your I types. And like I said, this is just an introduction, so you want to study deeper into it, we can help you out with that. And I agree with what it says here. They enjoy making people happy. They can be higher than a kite or lower than a skunk. And, I would say that 70% of the time I'm fairly optimistic, but you don't want to be around me when I'm the other part, because what's the use? Why are we even alive? It's in fact, the I types, you take Robin Williams was one of those, committed suicide. He was a very funny guy. And you would think, well, a guy like that would never commit suicide, but he did. That was at the time when he was not higher than a kite. And I would agree with this too. I types don't like being ignored, ridiculed, looking bad, being isolated. And by the way, I'm kind of swallowing my pride. I didn't want to wear these glasses, but I kind of need them, so I was swallowing my pride. I like to look good if I can. It's a challenge, isn't it? So, and their key word is inspiring. Typically, if I hear somebody, they always have wild ideas, that's all I need to know. They're an I personality. I already know that's where they're at. Not everything works the greatest. So we're going to go to the S types, which I've noticed before. We did this once a couple years ago where I kind of separated the room over in the old auditorium, and I noticed that I think everyone that was in ministry was in the S category. And these people are pretty nice people, actually. Supportive, steady, stable, secure. They like to serve, sweet. I don't know. Probably have to ask Deborah if Marcus is sweet or not. I think probably. I don't know how submissive he is there. They like the status quo. They typically, and the last one is sucker. And in other words, they can be abused. They don't like saying no to people. But here's a little key for you S types. No is very powerful. If you do say no, it stops people in their tracks because they have never heard you say that before. And so it's not wrong to say no, to keep from being a sucker, if you will. About 30 to 35% of good people in the world. I'm kidding about that too, but there's some people that would be that way. And by the way, I missed on the I personality. You know what? I'll do a quiz. What Bible character would have possibly been the I personality? Anybody? Peter. There you go. That was actually that's the one I had wrote down. If you think about it, he was higher than a kite. There's Jesus walking on the water, and made impulsive decisions. Whack that ear off, made quick decisions. Basic needs. Sorry. Forgive me, I jumped around there. So with the S personality, just who do you think the S in the Bible character is, or what is one of them? I'm sure there was several. Is there one that comes to mind? Is the S personalities love to be supportive. They don't want to be up front. They're not the outgoing type, but they are people-oriented, so they have your back, and they will support you. They're great people to have on your side. They don't want to, especially if you're an I personality, they don't want to steal your limelight, but they are there to support you. I wrote down John. If you remember, when Jesus was on the cross, he looked at John and he said, what? Take care of my mother. He didn't look at Peter at all when he said that, because he knew Peter wouldn't be a good one. His mom was going to be in trouble. But John was the one that was going to look out for his mom. Okay, back to the S. I'm sorry, yes, question, go ahead. Moses, you think Moses was an S? What do you guys think? Just from what you know. Because he seemed like he was shy. He didn't really want to get up front. Yeah. Yeah, true. But he did kill that Egyptian at one time. They can get dangerous. So here's some strengths of the S. They can be calm, dependable, easygoing, trustworthy, efficient, practical, conservative, diplomatic, humorous. But they could also be stingy, fearful, indecisive. They don't want to hurt anybody's feelings. They can be just a spectator, self-protective, unmotivated, selfish, timid, and shy. Under control, they are relaxed, reliable, cooperative, stable, good listeners, single-minded, steadfast, soft-hearted, systematic, amiable. I don't want to bore you guys by reading everything here, so I know you guys are reading probably ahead of me, actually. So we'll go on. S-types like peace. They like friendly environments. They like to finish a job, unlike the I's who love starting them. That's one of my weaknesses. They like teamwork. That's one thing that I noticed when we did a group session, and I'll just bring in a story. My daughters thought I should bring in some personal stories, and maybe I'll insert this one here. When I first came up here from Tennessee, I was in the youth group with a man named, a boy named Brad. And Brad and I were good friends. We thought we were good friends, but it seemed like every time that we wanted to do something, I was the one who had to come up with what we were going to do. And I didn't like that. I'm like, must be he really doesn't want to do things with me. And so I just kind of like, okay, I'm just going to quit coming up with things to do. At a leadership seminar with Luke Kipfer and Dave Kaufman, they separated us into the 4 personality groups, and then Dave said, do any of you see anyone, and Brad was there, do you see anyone that's not in the right group? And I looked back there, the S category, there's my buddy Brad. And boom, light went on. Now I completely understand, and that is what learning about personalities can do for you. I completely understand why that he didn't want to come up with. He was afraid, it was something I might not want to do, and he was just being sensitive. And I'm convinced in a church, largely the issues that come up are exactly that kind of scenario. Most of us don't want to offend somebody else. We want to get along with each other, but we're misunderstood. And that is what I would say just kind of blew me away personally when I understood about the personalities. We need to get to the C's before we're done here. The S-types don't like insensitivity, misunderstanding, sarcasm, being pushed. They want you to be kind, pleasant, caring, patient, understanding, and gentle. That's what I said. They're pretty nice people, all in all. Somewhere, there's a little something I wanted to add to that, but I forget what it is at this point. Like I said, we're moving along at Mach 9. What I'm going through, and we've eliminated a lot of the slides, is actually at a minimum a 4-hour course that we do. So the C types, now these people are reserved and they're more task oriented. Anybody in the Bible that comes to mind that might fit that description? I was thinking of one, but then I'm thinking of another right now. I don't know. Would the contrast of Mary and Martha maybe come into this? But the one I had wrote down was the disciple Thomas. Doubting Thomas. Say, I won't believe it until you show me. And that's the C type. They want to be sure. They're cautious, they're competent, cognitive, careful, calculating, critical thinking. They like to know what the rules are. I'm looking at one called my oldest son in the back, and then one of the first, well, what are the rules? The I types don't like rules anyway. Like, why would that be your first question? But they want to know what the rules are. They're conscientious. They like to be correct, conformist, consistent, but they tend to be cold. Sometimes they say things like, a lot of them are actually doctors and that kind of thing. Well, if your doctor tells you, you need to diet, you're fat. They probably don't say you're fat in these days, but they probably did. And your other personality is like, oh, well, you hurt my feelings. But you'd kind of like to know the truth, wouldn't you? So there's a big plus to sometimes hearing the cold, hard truth, but that could also be taken the wrong way. These are the smart people. Typically, they're accountants. They're typically in the back doing the boring stuff with numbers and stuff. They're really smart people, though. I don't know how many of you guys know Tiger Woods or Martha Stewart or Clint Eastwood, or Diane Sawyer as far as that goes, but they want quality answers, value, and excellence. Is all this ringing a bell, John? I knew it. I had you pegged about the second Sunday I saw you. So their strengths, they're gifted, analytical, sensitive, perfectionistic, aesthetic, idealistic, loyal, self-sacrificing, and thorough. But they can be self-centered. They can be moody, critical, negative, rigid, theoretical, impractical, unsociable, and revengeful. And I will insert this in at this point. My wife and I, while I was getting the DISC certification, there's an assessment that you can take, and we can do that as well. There's some of those assessment sheets out there that you can look at, but that will give you a very clear picture of what you are. And my wife and I turn out to be as opposite as people could be. Whatever I am very low in, she is very high in. Whatever she's low in, I'm very high in. And then my children say things like, "What do you expect out of us? Look at you guys." So they do have a point. One of the things, I'm just going to throw this in the middle of this, that I noticed with raising children, and I did not know any of this thing with personalities at that point, but our oldest two, which was Austin and Dallas, Austin was perfectly happy sitting in a car by himself, reading a book, playing some game or something. He didn't need people, and he was perfectly happy. Dallas was always with somebody. He wanted to do something with somebody. He was the I personality. And then I noticed later on when we had two little baby girls coming up the rear of the family, and Crystal is older than Carrie, but when I would come home from work and I'd get ready to give them a hug, if Carrie was the first one to see me, she would turn around and run. Crystal would come right up and get a hug, and I noticed if I gave Crystal, if they were both there, I would give Crystal my attention, I would give her a hug, and Carrie would be right there, and she'd want a hug too. But if it was the other way around, Carrie was gone. So that's some of the things that I understand now that I did not. Back to these C people. And I will say this, the C people are probably my biggest struggle. You know, I know some of this stuff, but it's really hard sometimes to accept some things. But I'm getting better, I think. Okay, so under control, they are orderly, logical, intense, curious, teachable, cautious, correct, questioning, conscientious, and precise. Out of control, they can be compulsive, critical, unsocial, prying. I felt that already. I'm not talking about my wife either, just from C personalities. Like asking questions, like, that's none of your business. You know, that's kind of the way I felt about it. They can be easily offended, fearful, inflexible, doubtful, worrisome, and they can be very picky. So, they like consistency, detail, excellent work, creativity, perfection, and getting it right. John, what do you think about that second paragraph? Think in concepts. Is that?
I think it depends. Some of us are concrete thinkers. We think in absolutes.
Okay. Yeah.
But yeah, we fit the other categories.
Yeah. And like I said, you have your own unique blend of a personality, so you're not going to click everything there, and let's hope you don't either, because when you get to the weakness part, nobody probably wants to be what you're capable of. C-types are difficult to please, focused on excellence, dedicated to the task, self-sacrificing, logical, and attention to details. They want you. They don't like being criticized. They don't like mistakes. They don't like being wrong, I know that. They're going to make sure they're not wrong. They don't like ambition without a plan. And, you know, Dave Kaufman talks about that because, by the way, 70%, according to Dave Kaufman, 70% of marriages are between the I types and the C types. And his wife is a high C, as like my wife is a high C. And so it's not an unusual situation to be married to C if you're an I, and that's how we balance each other out. One thing he says is the opposites attract, and then they attack. So the thing is that I can see kind of how that works when you don't know somebody very well. let's say in my case, I'm getting personal here, but a quiet woman like my wife is attractive because that's not me. I'm more likely to be the loud laughing guy or telling the jokes or whatever. And then you see in the opposite person or the opposite personality something that attracts you. But when you get married and you really get to know each other, some of those same things are frustrating. And you wish you could change them. But I will tell you, your personality can be modified. Your action, how you act out, can be modified. But the personality that God gave you, you're stuck with it. So try to be the best one of it that you can be. I believe that pretty much, we are 15 minutes over from 11:30. But I think I've seen Marcus do that too. So I think I will end it at that, and I hope it was somewhat educational for you guys, and hopefully it can help us to see others maybe in a different light, maybe with a little more patience. And the one thing that I became aware of is, because I like surprises, I like unexpected things. I like to be talking to some of you guys at church and say, hey, we're not done talking. Why don't you guys just come over for lunch? That's not what Mrs. Yoder likes at all. And if we're on a trip somewhere, I like to fit in, this is going to be fun. We're going to stop at this place and that place, but I'm not telling her I want to surprise her. No, she doesn't want surprises like that. She wants to know more. They want more information. And, I think of kind of excuse the comparison, but a dog and a cat. And, a cat is also a C word. If you have a dog and a cat in the garage and you open the door, who's the first one out? Normally the dog. He's out of here. He's going to go see what's going on. And the cat comes over there and looks at the door. Doesn't know, well, I might. Nah, I might not. Maybe. And I'm just like, do it already, But that is a little bit the personality of the C's. They want to carefully consider everything, and they don't want to make stupid mistakes. So, and that's helpful because that's one of the reasons I talk fast, because when I say the wrong thing, I have to come back and try to cover it up. So, thank you everyone for your attention. I appreciate it. I hope you enjoy. Oh, questions, anyone? I'll just briefly open it up because we're going too late here.
Mine wasn't a question, but I was thinking, what did Jacob be a seed? Kept working for him, used to get with Rachel, and they kept working over again. I don't know. He was the first one that came to my mind, so I was in that. It was just
I have to think about that a little bit. He was kind of selfish in a way too. God had to wrestle him eventually.
But then when he got to the weaknesses, I was like, but I still think he fits the category.
Yeah. I have to put more thought into that. That's a good one. Anyone else? Anything else? Jesus? I think that Jesus was, and by the way, I thought about I've got this little balancing man that bobbles around, but he keeps his balance, and I thought that would be a good, object picture. The goal of understanding personalities is to become more balanced. It's not to become more extreme. And I think Jesus exercised all four, really. I mean, he had a D when he drove the animals out of the temple. I'd have to think about that a little more. I'm not sure, but I believe that he encompasses all four personalities. And you can actually, it's a very rare personality, but you can have a personality that is basically centered. But you're a very unusual person if you have that. Anybody else? We had two questions from this side, nobody from over here. Andrew, did you go to sleep?
No. With Jesus, though, he had a sinless personality, right?
He had a sinless?
We have sin in our life, that's what
So he didn't have the weakness,
Yes,
the
right.
weaknesses. Good thought. Yeah. Okay. Anybody else? Okay, let's stand and we'll dismiss with prayer. Thank you, Lord, for giving us all our unique personalities, and we just ask for your strength and wisdom to put them to use to your honor and glory. We ask that you would be with everyone as they leave, and bless them for coming, and we pray this in Jesus' name. Amen. You're dismissed.